everyone, this is Game Mars. We're doing another unboxing and breakdown of the demo. This is The Suffering from Midway on the PlayStation 2, and this is being played on my PlayStation 2 as well. This is a game that I grew up with a long time ago. I think I was around 16 or 17 years old when I first played this, and so it brings me great joy to go back and replay it and just the fond memories I have of this game. Now, The Suffering is a game that you hardly ever hear too much about. It's usually not in people's lists, quite surprisingly, and it's oftenly forgotten, and at this point it has been completely forgotten in a newer current generation of gaming. And to my opinion, it's quite sad considering how great this game really is. Now, The Suffering is not your typical, always your main Resident Evil or Silent Hill terms of survival horror. It's more of an action horror game, more than survival, but it gets some survival aspects to it. But for the most part, it is an action with an easy, scary atmosphere to it, which it does flawlessly. The point is that the game has a great lore and world build around it with interesting characters, good voice acting, some nerve-wracking music soundtrack in the background, as well as some eerie sounds and jump scares and pop scares and stuff like that. That it really comes together really well done. And you often don't see a game that allows you to start in a prison and you yourself becoming an inmate in the game. So it was really nice to see this kind of different style. I'm talking about in this point of view. Now, I'm sure there's quite a bit of indie games out there nowadays, but for this time point, it was really refreshing. Now, the game also features a third-person as well as a first-person mode for you, and it was one of the few games that I've ever experienced, especially even currently now, where you're able to switch between them both. Now, I generally like to play in third-person mode, but it's really cool to see a game from this time point have a feature that both focus on first-person and third-person mode gameplay, and both work generally pretty well. Now, it's not the most smoothest gameplay experience outside of both, but generally, they both work. Now, overall story is Torque, which is the main character you play as, was sent to prison because of the terms of he murdered his entire family, his wife and kids, and he's convicted of those crimes and is being put the death penalty. And Torque is constantly having visions of the heinous acts that is being proclaimed that he has done. Now, Torque, the main character, has no memory of doing any of these things, but he is aware that he has a bit of a problem. And that is, Torque has a anger issue, which you can manifest into a creature in the game, which you can pretty much upgrade and get stronger with it the more you use it. You can tear apart enemies really quickly, and it's very powerful, and it's really cool. The more you use it, the stronger that transformation gets. But that's also kind of the other beauty part of this game, is that the game has features, with my understanding, 3 endings. There's a good ending, normal ending, and a bad ending. And through that, it depends how you play. You can be Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, and that will get you the good ending. Then if you have the normal ending, where it's where you're good, but you constantly let your anger consume you, where it's like more of a, you have anger problems, but you're still a good man. Or the third, the bad ending, where you're evil and you let the anger consume you. So it's really cool to have multiple endings for this game, as well as have this transformation, as well as it kind of touches on the factors of anger issues that some people may experience, where they black out from pure anger, and it's just something that could be recognized. Now, also the beauty part of the game is that every creature in the game is just not some typical run-of-the-mill spooky monster. Each monster in the game has some back lore to them about executions and death penalties that the inmates in that island has received, from lethal injections to being hung and so on and so forth. And it's really cool to see such deep lore and rich environment to the game, to not only the place that you're at and you're playing, as well as the main character, but also the enemies you fight. This is a sign of a game that was taken with very passion and consideration of not just one aspect, but all aspects. Now, again, as I said, the game is one of those few games that does not get the love that it deserves, and it's oftenly considered my top 10 best PlayStation 2 games. It's also available on Xbox as well, and I do recommend, if anybody who has a PlayStation 2, this is a must find and must pick up for your PS2 game, or just collection in general. There is a sequel, The Suffering 2, which in my opinion is not as great, and I will cover that game when I get there. But for the most part, The Suffering, the first one, is where you should start, and it's a great game to your collection. There's really not much else I can really talk about how well this game is. Like I said, it brings back fond memories for myself. I played it a lot back when I was really young, around 15 or 16, and it brings great joy to come back and enjoy it again. It's just one of those games I'm just happy to have in my collection. I wanted to share it because, again, not a lot of people talk about this game, and it's a game that's worthy of more praise. And I would love to see maybe a remake, if possible. That would be great. Or maybe a sequel, The Suffering 3. But by my understanding, that the game didn't favor too well in sales and didn't get as popular as you can tell. Most people don't even recognize its existence anymore, which is just criminal in my opinion, because this game is so good. I know, I keep saying that, but really, this game is something that is a gem in the PS2 library, or this generation that came out, and it's one that should be part of your collection. So, like always, I will leave links down in the description for your interested copy, which I highly recommend. Hit that like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos from me, and I'll see you guys on my next episode. Bye-bye!
Welcome to Carnate. Inmates, enjoy your stay.
I've been sentenced to death for murdering my family.
Inmate, is this true?
Oh, he won't say. Claims he blacked the whole thing out. A likely story.
When the judge sentenced me to die, he told me he only wished my suffering could be equal to that of my victims.
I read about your trial. They got no witnesses, all circumstantial evidence. No one knows what really happened but you.
I expected to sit waiting for my time to die.
Whoa!
Then...
There's something in here! It's in here!
Inmate, back in your cell. Everything's under control.
all hell broke loose.
You cannot escape what I bring about. What's taking so long? Your being here ain't no coincidence. In a place where nothing is what it seems, you will choose your path and uncover the truth behind the suffering.